Yeah, that's right. It's nothing but Netflix. And it's me, your host, Chappell, here to talk about another Netflix movie. This time, we're going to be talking about the Thursday Murder Club, starring Helen Mirren and a bunch of other older actors. And with me, I had to go get somebody who I knew. First of all, I knew a bunch of these actors and also had probably seen this already. It's Grace. Grace, welcome.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. Nothing but Netflix. It's the Thursday Murder Club, Chappelle.
It is. It is.
Assaults and murders.
We're recording this on a Thursday, so it's
Yep.
very fitting. But this will drop sometimes next week once everybody has time to watch it. This is a crime comedy film that was originally a book series, started in 2020, I believe, and now it has hit the Netflix screens. And I don't know what the reception is yet, but Grace, you were able to watch this before it hit Netflix.
Yeah. So yes, I was privileged enough to get a screener for this movie, but I'm a huge fan of the Thursday Murder Club book series, specifically the author who writes it, Richard Osman.
Mhm.
If you watch any British panel show, you've likely seen him. He's like the tallest human being alive. He's lovely. I would recommend almost everything he's like. He hosts a show called Richard Osman's House of Games,
Mhm.
and it's a delight. It's just like celebrities playing games. He's been on Taskmaster, so he's great. So he had a book coming out, and I read it, and I love Thursday Murder Club. I think he's written like more than a book a year since 2020. Maybe the math
Oh.
is like because I think there's 4 Thursday Murder Club books, and then he
Mhm.
had a new book come out last year, and he has a new Thursday Murder Club book coming out before the end of this year. He's just
Okay.
writing books. He's going wild. But I was very excited for the book to be adapted into a movie from Steven Spielberg's production company and Chris Columbus directing, who's done like Mrs. Doubtfire and a bunch of other stuff. So was very excited for this movie.
Yeah, and a star-studded cast. I mean, like I said, I didn't know going in what to expect. I typically don't because I don't watch a lot of trailers. When something pops up on Netflix, I say, "Oh, that's going to be popular. Let's go talk about it." And so when I saw who was in this, I was like, "Okay, Pierce Brosnan's in it. Obviously, Dame Helen Mirren is in it as well.
Yeah.
Ben Kingsley. It's like there's a few like Oscar nominees in this. There's Emmy nominees. David Tennant's in this. So first of all you
Oh,
have to do is say David Tennant's in this, and I'm already going to just check it out. But I very much enjoyed seeing these very decorated actors and actresses in these roles.
yeah, I mean the premise of the book is it was like it's a very easy sell. I feel like every time I recommend it because the whole thing is like it's a bunch of people who live at like a retirement home. They try to solve cold case murders, and then they like get wrapped up in some other like in that case or that thing that's happening, and it often like leads to a lot of kind of shenanigans. There, it's a crime movie. It's very fun. There's some stuff about the book that I think like don't translate into the movie. They like trimmed down the plot a lot. Like there's way more characters, and this has movie has a lot of characters already, so
Mhm.
they definitely did trim it down. But it's just like a really fun premise. And so yeah, when the casting came out, that it was Helen Mirren, Pierce Brosnan, Ben Kingsley, and Celia Imrie, who's not quite as big a name, but I think if you watch a lot of British movies and TV, you've seen her around. What a fun quartet to be the Thursday Murder Club.
Yeah, Grace, there's been a lot of these kind of murder mystery shows, I would say, on Netflix recently. What's up with this influx? Because was it Knives Out that really got the ball rolling on this?
I I think Knives Out definitely like sort of like relaunched the genre a bit where it seemed like there's been so many murder mystery movies and television shows over the last like 5 years. I think part of it is that it's actually I interviewed David Mitchell, who's another British comedian. He has a show called Ludwig that came out on the BBC. It's on BritBox now, and he plays a puzzle creator who has to like swap with his twin brother because his twin brother's missing, and he has to like figure out what happened to his twin brother. And he talks about that show, and every episode is basically like a murder mystery that he has to solve. And I asked him like, why do you think these like murder mysteries? Because you have the after party of Knives Out,
The
Poker
Residents.
Face, yeah, The Residents. I feel like these are really popular, and he thinks that there's something, and I agree with him. There's something really satisfying about a television show that like you eventually find the answer to. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that, like it's very satisfying to like play along, but then by the end of the thing have like a confirmed answer, which this movie does as well. That like we figure out by the end of it like what's going on, and there's something just like I think in our brains that is really tickled by murder mysteries specifically. So I think there's something to be said about like the renaissance of the murder mystery over the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, I probably agree with you, Grace. One of the biggest issues I have with modern television and movies is that they don't know when to let stuff end. Like,
Mm.
if you ever get me talking about Stranger Things, you will know that I just was like, y'all, at some point you got to land the plane. You can't wait. You can't drag this out 20 years, and yet here we are. Like
Even the last season, they're dragging out Chappelle. They're like
right.
dropping it in 3 batches. It's like, what are we doing? Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like I do like that satisfying feeling of knowing that something has an end. And I think Netflix has gotten a kind of a bad reputation for, 2 or 3 seasons and then out, whether you are done with the show or not. Even like The Residents, we get 1 season of The Residents. People really liked it, but we're not getting a Resident season 2. So there's a lot of Netflix shows that feel incomplete. And so I think maybe there's something about, like you said, that feeling of completion when you start you with a question, you figure out what the answer is, and you're able to close the book on whatever it was you were watching and move on to the next thing. That really speaks to someone like me because I'm so exhausted by watching things that may or may not have a solid ending.
So the other psychology thing that I talked about with David Mitchell about is the idea of murder mysteries being obviously about murder. So something happens to somebody dies, but there's this other like thing about like that person being caught. And sometimes you can get the thing where it's like, oh, it was actually like done for a good reason or what, like
Mm-hmm.
there's like that. But like for the most part, like a lot of these are like we're catching the bad guy. And in the era in the last like 10-ish years of feeling like we're living in a society where like the bad people are getting away with a lot of stuff is the
Yeah.
other thing that seemed to maybe resonate is like, yeah, maybe it is satisfying to watch by the end of the episode, not to be like propaganda or whatever, but like by the end of the episode, like the bad guy will have not gotten away with the bad thing that they did in a murder, typically in a murder mystery. So I think it's the other thing. He talks about like Ludwig being a cozy murder, which I kind of feel like this has a little bit of like cozy murder mystery vibes to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something to that as well. Are you surprised that this feels like because it's based on a book? I feel like the instinct is like, why this? Are you happy that this is a movie? I'm so delighted that this is a movie because
Me too.
it could have been a TV show.
Yeah, very much. Especially when you know that there's multiple books. They could have dragged this out episodically for 5 or 6 episodes. That's the Netflix model, 6 to 8 episodes probably
Yeah,
to do this whole thing. They could have made it 10 if they just really were just feeling it. And then for the next book, do it all over again for season 2. They could literally have done that. And I am so happy that this is a movie. Why do you think they made the decision to make this a movie instead of a TV season? It's just the actors are not signing up for something like that.
well, I mean, I guess there is a good reason to presume in a show where you would have to hire like senior citizens.
I mean,
If you did the Stranger Things timeline, like it might not look so great for the like Jonathan Pryce. I love him. He every movie I see, I feel like he ages like 10 years in every movie he's in. He looks quite old. I think in this show he's also supposed to like literally look very old, like he's supposed to be, a little bit aging. But yeah, I guess maybe that's the reason, right? Where like we just can't guarantee,
I
especially with
mean,
the caliber of star that they got for this movie. They probably couldn't. Although Helen Mirren and Pierce Brosnan started another show. This is their second thing this year. They were also in Mobland on Paramount, which is
mhm.
actually quite good. I actually like Mobland, but so yeah.
Yeah, not I'm not age shaming Helen Mirren because she's an icon, but
Yeah,
like she to me, she has felt elderly for a very long time. And
yeah,
so to get here to this and say like, oh, she's 80 years old. This is crazy. But that also lets me know that we probably shouldn't be signing on to any 10, 20-year projects, just for
maybe.
law of averages says that we probably don't have that long, with people. And to that I say, okay, then let Helen Mirren cook while she can, right?
Sure.
Same thing with Ben Kingsley. I think he's 81. I think he's the oldest person
Yeah,
that like in the main cast. And then you got Pierce Brosnan, who all of a sudden just seemed elderly to me. Like I don't think I like the build up to Pierce Brosnan being 72 years old. It just I looked up one day and James Bond was this guy. And so this was interesting, but I agree. I don't think we can play with time when it comes to this cast.
that's true. I've completely forgotten about the fact that all the main cast of the show are senior citizens. So yeah, it's a pretty obvious question as to why they didn't do a series. But I'm just so happy it's a movie. I think this works really well as a. I think it could have been a fun TV show, but I don't think this needs to be drawn out. I think it's really fun as a 2-hour movie.
It would also be very frustrating to me if like The Residence gets canceled and then you bring this as another TV show that which is like basically the same kind of like who done it model, and then you go on like, oh yeah, we got another one, because then I would be expecting this to get canceled too, and then if it does, I would be very sad. Like, why do you keep doing this to us? Just give us the movie, knock it out one time, and then if you want to come back to it, you can. But we're not all on the hook for what happens next like this. Like, I have no question about like that they could do another movie, but once the story ended, I felt like very relieved that it was done. I knew the end, and then if they want to build on it, they still can.
Yeah, I don't. I'm up in the air whether I think that this will come back again, just because like the level of like casting that they have.
Mhm.
I think I've seen some stuff that like a bunch of them said that they would definitely do it again. And there are 4 books on the way, so they definitely have the material. Although, really interestingly, Richard Osman, the writer of the book, actually did not want to write the movie. He actually feels like there's like too much. Like he would hold on to stuff too much. He actually wanted to like give it up and let somebody else do it. So he refuses to write them. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll see if there's. I would like there to be another one, but I'm not holding my
Yeah,
breath per se.
me too. I really enjoyed this. Grace, so you said this was adopted from the book. Is
Mhm.
it like a one for one as far as like the book's plot? I know you said they kind of shaved it down a little bit, but if I read the book and I go watch this, it's the same kind of DNA.
Okay, so the central mystery is like the same. Like the
Mhm.
really like they don't deviate from the core thing that we're doing in terms of like who dies in the movie is the same people who die in the book. I would say that there are like subplots to other characters that they dive. There's like more to them. The other thing that I think for me the thing that didn't translate the most from the book to the movie is the book. Almost every chapter is written differently, and actually Richard Osman does this really good thing where like the chapters are quite short, so they like keep you focused, but like
Mhm.
all of Joyce's POV chapters are written as like letters to her daughter, and like you
Oh,
meet
okay.
her daughter in the film, but there is something about the way that she's like communicating with her daughter about the things that are happening before, or she's like she'll be saying like, yeah, like we're gonna be driving to the mall or whatever. Like there's so much more. I feel like it's like it just does a really good job of like sort of like shifting and moving, and so that sometimes you're getting a scene with the bad guys, and you're like you might not have all the information that you like. You're kind of just like thrown into it. So I feel like that didn't wholly translate into the movie, and why maybe some of the stuff wasn't as important to like shift around. And I know some of the Bogdan stuff is different in the like the work that he does is different than what happens, but for the most part it's like the central thing. I don't think it's like that far out what we got from the book.
Okay, well, for everybody who's listening or watching this and who haven't gone and checked it out, go check it out because we're about to spoil the mystery for you right about now. And then come back and listen to us. Or if you don't mind being spoiled, we're going to talk about it because like I said, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed of course, the mystery within the mystery. I love when stories do that. I think another kind of murder mystery that's probably a little underrated, or it's not so much underrated, but probably undersold as a murder mystery is Wednesday. I think season one of
Yeah.
Wednesday very
Hmm.
much gives you that same kind of vibe. And so, like, where they give you a central theme, but then
Yeah.
within the theme, there's another theme, right? And so, for here, we have like this cold case that the murder club is investigating that becomes kind of like almost like the subplot here. But we don't really address it too much. It's kind of like we start with this cold case where a woman is pushed from her window, and the only suspect is her boyfriend, who is very clear that he probably did it and just got away with it because the cops didn't feel like pursuing it. And then by the end, we are going to learn the answer of that question. But while we deal with the bigger murder that's surrounding this elderly estate, I guess, this residence for elderly people. I can't remember what it was called, Grace.
Cooper's Chase is the name of it.
Cooper's Chase, yes, with a bunch of llamas and nude models and a bunch of very posh elderly people who come from money, it seems, because I don't know of any senior citizen homes that are like this anywhere near where I live.
Yeah, it's funny. I have this thing where like when I'm reading a book, I don't think that I really like fully envision everything that's like I don't really have this like, oh, and that's what Cooper's Chase looks like. Like in my head, Cooper's
Mhm.
Chase is more of this like amorphous thing that is what it
Yeah,
like in the book they're like they do meet in the jigsaw room. So you're kind of like, oh, there's probably a jigsaw there, whatever. But I'm not like being like,
right,
oh, every element of the room. I did not envision it as like a ginormous castle. Like I don't know if other people who read the books like are like, of course it was a castle, but like not in my
right.
head. But like it is a stunningly beautiful like seniors resident home. It's magnificent, and I think it's very funny when you're like, okay, that's I guess that's what. Of course, they want to save this place from being torn down. Like, of course, they all want to live here. You know, it's
Right.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess the people want to tear it down to make it into like some condominiums or something like that. It's very,
Well,
it
that
feels
will be
very
an event
weird.
space. The okay. I will say I do think one of the things is it does feel a little bit like there's the cold case, and then that kind of goes away for a while, then like it
Mhm.
loops back in at the end. But I do think one of the things that the book, like the movie, sorry, does really well is like these things actually do all tie together in a way that, like, at least thematically, it's really important. So, like, the fact that like people die is because they want to tear out they're gonna like dig up the cemetery and like build lofts there, and like this beautiful castle will become an event space. And the fact that they're doing that is ultimately where like they're worried about the body that's gonna get like dug, like the bones that will appear that like, oh, somebody got murdered years ago. And it's all about like, you know, Penny, who was part of the Thursday Murder Club, and it all just like actually is like pretty well intricately woven together to be both like satisfying as an answer, I think, and also like thematically resonant that these like people have a home, you know, that doesn't get
Mhm.
destroyed. I think it's quite sweet actually.
Yeah, and I like that although they have a lot of characters, most of the characters really matter to the story, right? Like so we'll meet different characters throughout where they kind of introduce them and then they move away from them and then we'll come back and be like, "Oh, okay," cuz for there was a while where we meet Elizabeth Best, who is obviously a retired spy, but you know,
Yes.
she doesn't really talk about it, but it's clear through her skills here in the Thursday Murder Club that that's what she comes from. But when we meet her husband, we're kind of given the, "Oh, well he has dementia." And she really loves him. And then we leave him and we never come back. And then we're like, we just pop in randomly. Then all of a sudden, Bogdan wants to meet with the husband as well. I'm like, why are we talking about the husband? And then by the end, he's almost like the key to figuring out this whole situation. We do the same thing with Penny and her husband because Penny is in a coma. We don't really need to talk to Penny because she's not giving much. But husband is there the entire time. And we're like, why don't we keep tapping in with him? And by the end, all of these characters that we just really touch base with for a little bit will come back into play later on. It's very Scooby Doo, you know, where it's like there's the red herrings, and then there's the actual person who is in, you know, in the middle of the central conflict here with all of these murders, and it's always like people that we just kind of visited for a little bit and stepped away from.
Well, the thing about a murder mystery is that often the casts are really large. If you think about a Knives Out cast, there's a Knives Out movie coming this December. Chappell, I'm hoping to see it next week in Toronto. We'll see if I
Ooh.
get to see it at the Toronto National Film Festival. But you need a lot of people because you need potential victims. So like somebody in this group is going to die, and then you need a bunch of suspects. And so you can't just have like if you have like a cast of 4, like well, it kind of becomes pretty obvious, like
Yeah.
you know the odds. You need a lot of characters, and then the thing that Thursday Murder Club does is like you know I don't know if this is like fully spoiled, but like pretty unlikely it's going to be one of our 4. You know, I guess it's part of the twist of the first. You know, as I'm sort of spoiling, is that like Penny, who was part of the Thursday Murder Club, like she did do a murder, but like our central 4 of like Ron, Elizabeth, Ibrahim, and Joyce, like it's not going to be one of them. So like we're already expanding and kind of like ballooning the cast out because we're going to have this like the core group of people who are trying to solve a murder, and then we have all these people who either will be murdered or are going to be suspects in the murder. So it is like a huge cast. I do think he does a really good job. I think, or like I'm saying, Richard, and he didn't write the script for this movie, but in this movie, I do think they do a really good job of like every characters don't show up to be like, oh, that's a suspect. Like everybody, I think, has a pretty satisfying place in the story. You have Bogdan, who works for like Ian and whatever Bobby. That guy, like
Tony, yeah, Tony and Bobby,
and
yeah.
Tony, yeah, he works for Tony and Bobby. Not doesn't work for Ian. You have Steven, like you have the one thing I think that like the book does probably that was missing a little bit in terms of why I think the book is a little bit better than the movie is I do think, and maybe I'm wondering what your opinion on like the 4 main cast members and like all of their like backstory, because yes, you obviously do get like these scenes with Stephen and Elizabeth. We learn a tiny little bit about Ibrahim at the end of like his personal life at the end of the movie, but we learn that he's a retired psychiatrist. Joyce and her daughter, Ron and his son. Like, what did you make of like the central four cast? Because I think that's like so important to them, to like the Thursday Murder Club. Is obviously the members of the Thursday Murder Club.
Yeah, I think they probably handled it the best with Elizabeth, obviously, because she's like got the, I guess, the more interesting backstory to me, the like retired spy or whatever. And so throughout, we can tell by her mannerisms and what she's doing, that way she picks up on cues and stuff, that okay, there's more to this lady than meets the eye, right? This isn't just like some like, oh, she's just a really observant person. It's like, no, she's obviously hinting that she's done a few, deep cover assignments before. Again, I think she'll mention MI6 at one time, so it's very clear that she's somebody who should be watching for these things. But you're right, Ibrahim, we really don't get a lot about. I think they might have said his name 3 times in the film. It's kind of like once you acknowledge that he's there, and he's a good part of the club. They obviously have skills, and I think their skills are what we see that kind of gives their backstory a little bit more. So like with Ibrahim, there are cool moments where he like will have a plan and everybody's like, what, do you think this is gonna work? And then it'll work out. It's like, oh, okay, that's what he brings to the table. Same thing with Joyce. Her being a retired nurse comes in handy because, people are dying, and it's great to have somebody who can run over there and be like, they were poisoned. Look at that. I'm a nurse. I just happen to have these skill sets. So that's kind of how we flesh out the characters. But it would have been nice to kind of learn a little bit more about them. I think, especially with Joyce and her daughter, Joanna, like you said, in the book, it's probably, it's these letters to each other. So we kind of learn their interaction through that. But here it kind of feels like Joyce is a widow and she's now come to this retirement home to make friends. Joanna really hasn't had time for her. So this is all she has as far as connection. And she really wants to be involved in something, right? And so it ends up being the murder club. And by the end, she's able to tell Joanna, like, look, I made friends. Isn't that great? And you should buy this place so that me and my friends don't have to stop being friends. So those are like the character moments we were getting from some of these people.
So smart to just have your daughter buy
just buy it.
The state. I love Joyce and Elizabeth. They are my favorite. I like Ron and Ibrahim as well, but certainly in the first book, I there's something about Joyce is the most like she's the most on the hero's journey, where like she's in a new place and then just kind of like, oh my god, now I'm best friends with like a former spy who like drives up, like the scene of them on the bus. I feel like I wanted like more of that dynamic because there's so much of it in the book where Joyce is so clearly out of her element but so excited to be like doing spy stuff, and Elizabeth trying to like be a cool spy but like hanging out with her new friend who's excited to be along for the ride is like my favorite dynamic by far. And so like when they're trying to figure out like what WTF stands for, and Elizabeth is like it's Joyce is like swearing on the bus, is like that's my favorite I just love them as a duo, and I want more of like that energy throughout the rest of the movie. But there's a lot happening in this movie that I can understand where like it's not ever going to be as in depth as maybe I want it to be. Ibrahim specifically, I think, does get more in future books. So if there's another movie, we might get more. And I actually don't think the reveal that he's a gay man actually even happens in the first book. I think it comes later. And so I thought it was kind of nice that we do get the reveal at the end of when he shows the photo of him and his former partner with Joyce. But I love the Thursday Murder Club. They're probably my favorite part of the quartet here. So yeah.
There is a really cool scene too when Joyce she finds out about the big murder, right? The one where
Tony dies. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she's running around, like she hears it on the radio. Yeah. And she's running to all her friends like, hey, y'all, wake up, somebody got killed. They're like, why are you so excited about this shit? Oh shit, you're right, I shouldn't be. Like
she doesn't know Tony,
Yeah. She's hyped. She's like, oh, this gives us something to do. That's not a cold case that we can't figure out. This is a case that directly affects them too. With Tony dying, it looks like now the estate is going to be sold, and there's going to be developers moving in to flatten this bad boy, make it into condos and an event space. And so they're like, okay, we got to figure out who's next in line, and we got to stop this from happening. And so they're using like it's like they've gone from Thursday Murder Club to like the primary detectives on this case,
Yeah.
and of course they've even enlisted the helps of actual detectives. So I enjoyed that part too, seeing them and Detective Donna DeFritas. Yeah, they like basically adopting her and then using her as the inside man to the police to get extra information and almost working alongside the police against the police's wishes. To figure this out because of course there's no way that they're going to just let the police try to handle this, right? Like this is the thing that they've been waiting for. They're elderly people who are all retired. They need a little spice of life. And although it's a murder, they like doing this. This is their weekly assignment is to come get together in the jigsaw room and to do these things. So I enjoyed all of that. The interplay between all of them. It was so much fun to watch.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I like about they all like they're pretty well rounded in the sense of like, obviously Elizabeth has the spy background. Ron is often used as he doesn't really get to do that as much. I feel like he's often the he's such like a chummy lad, and so he's
Mhm.
like he's sometimes the face of their front or like intimidation. He's like a former union, but they talk about this that he would stand on the picket lines of union protests. Ibrahim like having like the psychology of like and like figuring out motive and that sort of stuff, and then Sweet Joyce having the medical background. I was not picturing Naomi Aki as Donna DeFreitas in my head at all, but when I and I wasn't sure she is really fun in this as well. I
Mhm.
really like Naomi Aki. She's been in like so many good stuff. People watch Mickey 17. There's a new movie out called Sorry Baby that she's in. I think she's like tremendous in it. I thought she's very fun as like the sweet innocent new police officer or detective who gets roped onto the team. Like when they put her on the team,
Mhm.
is so fun. Paired up with like Chris, who um is more, I guess, long around, but he's so easily to like
Mhm.
just like trick him basically. I like these two characters being roped in by the Thursday Murder Club. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the first red herrings we get throughout this is Jason, Ron's son. Jason
Yeah.
Ritchie he's very famous, but he's kind of after his career, he's doing the older celebrity circuit now. He's skating with celebrities and dancing with
Doing
stars.
Bake Off, all this stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, he's on the tail end of his career, but he's a prime suspect because they see his tattoo cropped out of a photo. It's looking really bad for Jason throughout. And I thought the conflict was going to be okay, Jason is a suspect. We need to see how Ron is going to deal with that. And we get a little bit of that, but honestly, they go through that really quickly. Like they move very quickly past the conflict that I thought they were going to lean on.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like that's like there is some of that's I think one of the bigger things with Ron. Ron has divorced twice as they talk about in the movie. So a big piece of Ron's thing is that like his life wasn't quite as perfect as he like sort of like for like to be a very good looking sort of like muscular man. Maybe his life didn't work out like perfectly, and his son is sort of embodies a lot of maybe what Ron would have hoped happened with his life, which is like part of the irony of that being that like Jason's life is not like Jason's life is in this weird place where his boxing career is over, and now he's in sort of this next phase, and he's also living in this like space of like, oh, what could have been, and so the idea that like Ron is putting that on Jason as Jason is feeling that like about his own life is like that is something. I agree that they do go through it pretty quick in terms of, like they sort of have that spat about that of like you're always looking for like what the ideal version of me is rather than like who I am, and we ultimately figure out that Jason has an alibi for the murder that he didn't necessarily want to. This is the one thing I will say. I've never been a suspect in a case, but the
Mm-hmm.
amount of times people like you'll see in television shows or movies where the police will come and they'll be arrested and they're a suspect and they just won't say the thing that they were doing instead of the thing that happened because they think it will be more suspicious than literally being accused of murder. I will never understand. Like the more apt thing for me in my own life is that I'm like not going to remember what I was doing at the time. Not that I was like off gallivanting. Like, just say you were cheating, Jason. Just, I guess not even cheating, right? Was he cheating? It was
Yeah,
just
I
that
mean,
he was with Ian's wife.
he was having an affair. He wasn't technically
He
cheating.
wasn't
She
cheating.
was.
That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
the problem?
Yeah, to me, I think it's like I know I'm innocent. So if y'all are decent at y'all's jobs, you too should know I'm innocent. And then
Yeah.
you're like, no, we don't know you're innocent. You need to tell us the alibi. And they're like, you can't figure it out some other way. Like there's nothing like you can't get like there's something else can exonerate me without revealing this thing. But then when they do the reveal, Grace, he's like, yeah, I have an alibi. I was sleeping with Ian's wife. And then they say, oh, really? Do you have proof? Yeah, we took a selfie while in bed. And so, although this is a secret affair, we have photos and timestamps to prove that it was happening at the time it was happening. I was like, I thought that was a little too cute.
A little too cute. A little too cute. I don't remember if that's exactly the story from the book, but I agree. Too cute. And there's no reason for him not to say that he was just sleeping with Ian Bentham's wife. There's literally no reason. Maybe in the book. I mean, the one thing I guess you could like, he was a boxer, so you presume he got hit in the head a lot. And so
Mhm.
if he was a little dumber, I feel like that would have been, we could have made some sense from like that. But it seems like he's just like, no, I didn't want to say that I was sleeping with the guy's wife.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially because Ian is the second person who will turn up dead in
that's
this,
true.
and yeah, and so that doesn't look great. But he only needed to be, he only needed an alibi for the first murder. He didn't need one for the second murder because Ian was basically killed. It is in broad daylight
In
at the
broad
estate.
daylight.
Yeah, there's a protest because they're trying to make sure this place doesn't get torn down. And in the skirmish, he falls dead. They find out it was fentanyl that did him in. And so that made every old person at this residence a suspect, including our core four, even though we were able to eliminate them from the
Yeah.
suspect list very quickly.
What'd you make of it? Because David Tennant shows up as Ian Bentham. I think
I
it's
love him.
I love David Tennant in a
I love
villain
him.
role. I think he's so funny. He like hams it up in the best way. Like it is so exaggerated and so fun. He does immediately feel like he's the most likely person to kill Tony, and therefore this is the case in every murder mystery where you're like, oh, if they want me to think he's the most suspicious, then it's obviously not that person. You know what I mean? And so I
Mhm.
feel like it is a smart choice to like kill him up, but it also is a twist where it's like you think first of all that it might just be about figuring out the cold case, then Tony dies, now also Ian's dead. Like, what is going on at Cooper's Chase? Did you like this plot point, I guess?
I did. I like the shift because I think that it, like you said, it was very easy to be like, okay, eventually it's Ian and Bobby. There are suspects here. We got to figure out which one of them did it. This adds another layer because now that Ian's there, you're like, well, Bobby wasn't there, so somebody had to kill Ian, and we have to know why. We know that Bogdan didn't kill Ian because he's over there digging at the time. So they kind of eliminate all the main suspects at that time, except for Jason. And so that's when you kind of start looking, well, maybe it was him involved, but you still have to figure out, okay, well, who out of this bunch would have any motive to kill Ian? And we don't know that there's motive to kill Ian until the very end. So I think it really works because Penny's husband ultimately is who we will find out is the one who killed Ian. But we don't know that he has a motive until we find out that Penny had something to hide, and we won't know that until the very end. So I thought it worked. What about you?
I think the both deaths are pretty, because there's this thing where it's like, is it the people in charge, or is it like potentially that the people in charge sort of got away with it because it's one of their underlings, like did somebody. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, because you basically have like, is it Ian, and eventually like you're kind of like, oh, maybe it's this Bobby guy,
Mm-hmm.
and before that you're kind of like, oh, is it Bogdan or is it Jade? Like, who were they hired to do something? And so then when Ian dies, then you're like, oh, like, okay, like, it, okay, it's not going to be, the guy in charge. Like, what else is happening here? And the way that sort of like, I feel like there is a good misdirect with the, like, in the way that the cold case is actually so tied up in what's happening, in the sense that it's not really the fact that Ian wants to like sell the plot of land, yeah, and so dig up the cemetery is what ultimately ends up being John's reason to kill Ian. But yeah.
Yeah. And Bogdan and Helen Mirren's character, they get really close in this very quickly. She goes and talks to him, and she basically pretends that, like, she just goes and works her spy magic on him.
Yep.
And while she's doing it, she determines that, like, oh, he's in a really tight spot. There's this, he's like an immigrant worker. He has a passport, but the people that he worked for have confiscated his passport. He can't get to go see his I think his dying mother back in Poland. And so we're endeared to him very quickly. And then he even offers a little assistance by saying, like, hey, if you come with me to the cemetery in the middle of the night, which is crazy,
Uh-huh.
like I will show you something. And he ends up taking her and showing her bones that were in the grave that he was digging up. Now, obviously, bones in a grave is not that suspicious, but bones in a grave without a coffin that are sitting on top of a coffin
Yeah.
is suspicious. And so that's where we start to learn that there are other layers and that someone else has died. There's now 3 deaths that we have to talk about.
This is clever. The Bogdan. I like Bogdan a lot. I think I liked the version of Bogdan from the book a little bit, but this is fun. And Helen Mirren playing going full spy mode. The few times she does in this movie, the other time where she's driving. What car is she driving? Where she's like, yeah, it was my retirement gift from
Yeah, and my
MI6.
sis gave me this. It's
Whatever,
fine.
whatever.
Yeah.
But her relationship, and then obviously she's gonna then like figure out what's happening with why what the passport deal is, and eventually then worry about the fact that like Bogdan has met with her beloved Steven. I feel like that's probably like the most tense part of the movie. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's like the Bogdan Elizabeth stuff is I feel like where like sort of like the crime, like the thriller element of this movie is at its best probably.
Yeah, Bogdan meets Steven first, and it seems like okay, this is nothing to really, nothing to really stick to. I mean, Steven has dementia, so he's probably not going to remember this at all anyway. But then by the end, it's very tense because Bogdan is a potential killer in this case. I said there were 3 bodies, but there's actually 4 murders in this because I keep forgetting that the first murder,
The
uh,
original cold
the
case, right?
original,
Yeah.
yeah, the original
Mm-hmm.
cold case. But after Elizabeth tracks down Bobby Tanner and kind of connects Bobby to this whole plot to keep these immigrant workers from being able to leave and basically holding their passports hostage, it becomes clear that Bogdan, who really wants to be able to, get his passport back, he has motive to come after Tony, to come after Ian, because he wants his stuff back. He wants to be able to leave. He basically wants his freedom. And so there is a part where, and I don't know, I thought it was very on the nose. Elizabeth basically telling Bogdan exactly how he needs to kill Steven. She's like, I put something in his tea. It's just a pill, but if you put more than one pill in there, he'll die. Like, oh, really?
Yeah, there's a little bit of like
It's very
yeah.
British.
Well, just a little too, it's so like TV and movie, that you would like say that, like, there's no real reason. You almost like, because like you need, it almost maybe would have worked better if just like as she puts the pill in, then like later she could say like, oh, you knew that you could have put more, like that would have been,
Mhm.
but like, yeah, I don't know why they put in the piece before, but yeah, it gives Bogdan, so not really Ian as much as it gives him reason to have killed Tony and then maybe come
Mhm.
after Bobby. And then once she Elizabeth knows that Bogdan had reason to kill Tony and thinks maybe he did it. Well, now Steven's in danger because that part is maybe also a little bit of the tension is good that like, oh, Steven might be being poisoned, but realistically, like, is there any reason why Bogdan would kill like, as far as Elizabeth, that like Steven is very smart, obviously. I think it's one of the better scenes is like the moment of clarity that he has of like, can you tell me about what happened? And then he's like, oh, I think you might have actually done it, and here's the reason that you have to do it. I guess there's not like, Elizabeth doesn't know that Steven knows yet, so then why would
Yeah.
Bogdan kill Steven? But for the moment, it's fine. I think it's like it's okay. Um, and Elizabeth even says that, like, because I think it's worth all of that for the Bogdan and Steven, like how appreciative she is of him coming to play chess. Like, I think that the Steven stuff is actually very sweet in the
Mhm.
movie. All of those scenes, and the final scene of the movie where they like dance together. Like, I think it's like,
Yeah.
it's extremely, extremely sweet. And yeah, sad. I don't know.
Yeah.
Poor Steven. Yeah.
Steven being the one who figured this out is very interesting, because he's the least active in the case, but yet he's the one looking at Bogdan every day when they're playing chess. And so I guess he's kind of like, yeah, through talking to you, the pieces that I pick up when I'm like lucid or whatever, like he's like, yeah, I think it was you. And luckily for us, he does record all of his chess matches, he like so he could pick up on strategy. And so this is a recorded conversation of him basically getting Bogdan to admit what happened. And so I don't know. I don't know if Elizabeth just like figures like, okay, well, Stephen's very smart. He's probably going to reveal, or like at least there's a good chance that Bogdan might pick up that Stephen might have picked up something. I don't know. And so maybe I need to kill him. Maybe he's just too close to me, and Bogdan is the bad guy. And so I just left him with I left him with my husband, and that's not safe. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah,
Whereas
that's
like
true. Yeah, just that
yeah,
he's
like
her husband.
I
Yeah.
just it's just I know this man's killed other people. I cannot put it past him to not didn't kill my husband just because. So yeah, there is a lot of tension there, but she gets there just in time. And you're right, it's very sweet because she's like, "Oh my God, did you poison Steven?" And he's like, "No, that's my friend." And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Bogdan, he wouldn't kill Steven."
Well, I think Steven is very funny because he's also kind of the most author self-insert because I believe they say, I think in the books, I think that he might be like just a professor, but in this they made him an author,
Author, yeah,
which in my head canon I'm just gonna now assume he's like he's a murder
a mystery,
mystery
yeah,
author. So
yeah.
so then when he's like the one who's able to figure it out, I feel like that's my head canon. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but that just
Mhm.
makes sense why he could like figure it out after talking with Bogdan. And I guess I make some assumption that like sometimes Elizabeth would talk to
Talk to him,
Steven about, like,
yeah,
we don't see that, but like I like maybe that should have been in there too. But no, it is so sweet. I just think, yeah, as my parents are getting older, I'm like, please don't, my grandfather had to, and it's like the saddest thing.
yeah,
But you do have these like random moments, like the moment where he talks about like the day the queen died, because she
yeah.
looked like the queen. I'm like, this is so weirdly sweet. I don't know. I love it. That's
A
yeah,
lot of it was,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if it's just because they're older people and the show takes really good care of them like throughout. Like they're doing some really dangerous detective work here. Like the scene where Elizabeth is in the cemetery, I was like, "What is wrong with you?" Like no, like I get that you live here, but this is odd. We get shadowy figures following her.
yeah,
I'm like, "Lady, you're a million years old." No disrespect, but like, what are you doing? Like I didn't see her with a mace.
yeah.
Uh, can she
Well,
get a anything?
Well, the other like big suspect we have, basically until it's revealed that Bogdan did it, is Bobby Tanner, played by Richard E. Grant. I love Richard E. Grant.
Hmm.
That scene is very like horror thriller coded as well, where he's like his hands are bleeding because he's like a gardener, like a
Yeah.
botanist. It's very creepy. I haven't really seen that before. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, he is one of the prime suspects. We don't really know if he's alive or dead, but we know he's like got like this whole like tie to the criminal underworld. But when we find him, he's basically retired. He's a florist. He's not killing anybody anymore, but he's still part of this passport scam. And so Elizabeth finds this out and basically like holds that information hostage. Like you got to let the passport people go, and I won't tell the cops and all the people that you're living here under a different name, trying to pass yourself off as some type of florist because I know that you're a worse person than that, and you've been acting like it. And so, yeah, that was pretty cool. That does eliminate him from contention, and it does put all the fingers back at Bogdan. And when Bogdan like does his big reveal that yeah, like I was just doing this so I could get my passport back. It was an accident that I killed Tony. It like I went to go get my stuff. He defended himself, and then I defended myself, and he ended up dead. And so at that point, it's like okay, cool, we've solved that murder, but there's still the case of the other body, and this is where the bigger twist comes around because we have to go talk to John, Penny's husband, because he is the prime suspect for killing Ian. Now, how did we get here, Grace?
Want to how we got to the why
To
John is a suspect?
yeah.
Why John? They think that John, or they know basically that John did it. Okay,
Hmm.
so Penny is one of the founding members of the Thursday Murder Club, and she had this cold kit, and she had never suggest, and that stuck out to Elizabeth, that like why would she have this case that's so interesting, and she would never suggested it. Well, it turns out Elizabeth is able to tell that Penny is, and you think that this would have come up earlier, that
Hmm.
she's in a lot of the photos because the woman who died, who everyone thinks that the boyfriend did it, the boyfriend was a police officer who worked on the same squad as Penny. And so he
Hmm.
basically, amongst the boys' club, got away with the murder of the husband. Nobody was ever to like, he mysteriously disappeared. Nobody was able ever to figure out what happened until the bones turn up above the coffin. And it turns out that those are that guy's bones. And so Penny had killed that guy many, many years ago. And the fact that the cemetery is going to be dug up lofts are going to be built on it. That scares John into thinking that like Penny might finally get in trouble, or be like thought of as a murderer, and so he murders Ian Bentham to stop the potentially the sale of Cooper's Chase and the lofts from being built. And so they find out that John did it. And then there's also this, like, I don't know how you feel, but like, but this is, it's a pretty bittersweet ending here, where it's like, what's interesting to me about the end here is that like they want to figure out what happened and they like solve the murder, but they're also like, hey, you did it. And then they let him kill himself. He like kills himself in Penny. I don't know if they say that in the movie, but that's the implication, is that
Yeah.
he will administer fentanyl to both of them and die.
Right, because he killed Ian with fentanyl. Yeah, and so because of that, they know, and they see his drawers half open, and you can see the fentanyl hanging out basically. And so they're like, "Hey, you did it." And so yeah, they could have this man arrested. I mean, he's very clearly like, "I'm guilty. I know you got to tell the authorities. Can I have a few moments with my wife, so I could say goodbye?" And then it heavily alluded to that, like in these few moments, he's about to die. And Penny's probably about to die too, because Penny's in a coma.
Yeah, I think the implication is that they're both gonna die. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically murder suicide.
Yeah. Pretty dark ending for like
very dark, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My question: why did Penny assign this cold case? What is going on that Penny's like about to go? Basically, she's in hospice care, but she assigns this cold case that completely implicates her.
Oh, she did assign it? No, doesn't Elizabeth pick this case random? Like she now that Penny's sick, Elizabeth is like picking the cases.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought this was in Penny's like stash of things, but no, this just randomly came up.
Arguably shouldn't be in the stash of things in the first place. Yeah, I believe that at the beginning, I'd have to rewatch the scene again, but I think that the implication is that like Penny, it's in the file because they have all these cold cases, but like Penny never picked, and that's probably why like Penny's in charge of picking the cases,
Right? She's like, as long as I
not this one.
Yeah, exactly. Penny, girl, you should be hiding this. You should have destroyed that file a long time ago.
So like I have some with like part of me is like, Elizabeth, girl, like what do you do now that you figured out with Penny and John? Like, what are we doing here? Like, why don't I just let things lie? I get, right. But I guess she has she was a spy. And she has a moral compass of like, I can't let John get away. Like, he has to like have some sort of consequence for killing Ian, because like Ian doesn't really. He's really shitty, but he's like not technically doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
But Barney's like, girl, like, can't we just like not tell John that that he did the murder? Like, can't we just be fine? But I really like I feel like it's very fun to have the thing turn on where it's like the person who is part of this club who's not, we never really meet Penny, but we get to learn so much about, like, we kind of do meet her by the end of the movie, and if she's like kind of a founding member of the Thursday Murder, I just really like that, of like that she gets revenge for this woman who died because of the boys club. I think it's like so good, and the fact that she's part of the cold, like the murder club, to like solve these cold cases, to like never being able, I just like that a lot. So I'm willing to like overlook some of the things I like. I'm like, why does she have the file in her stuff? Yeah. Why does Elizabeth go and tell John what happened? And the fact that the murder suicide is so dark, because I think it's a good story from like the Penny side of things.
Oh, absolutely. Even the darkness of the murder suicide, you don't really pick that up the way the show presents it, because they kind of like give them like a very sweet send off. They get a joint funeral and everybody's saying kind words, and John did it for love. That's what he did. He did it to protect Penny's legacy. And to that, I was like, okay, we're giving John a lot of credit here for being awful. Like, he definitely murdered a guy. And it's like, yeah, he murdered a guy, but Penny's in a coma. I don't think, and she did it. Penny did murder somebody.
I guess, yeah, but Penny was getting justice for the woman who died. Like, I'm so fine with Penny's murder. I guess this is where Elizabeth is coming from. That like the Ian murder is a little bit like, because realistically, John could have told them like, hey, this is what happened, and they probably like help move the bones or whatever, right? Because they're not going to like implicate Penny. So if John just hadn't murdered Ian and was just honest about what was happening, like, probably a much better thing to do, but instead he murders Ian, who is a shithead, but not, the worst person here. Yeah.
Yeah, John is actually awful. Like it's Penny's fine. But John is on the level with all the rest of the murderers. You just don't get to pick and choose who you decide to kill. I mean, like I said, Penny, I'll give her a pass because she was like a vigilante for justice here,
Yeah, that's full
But
Dexter kill. That's like full like
yeah,
murder the
Batman,
murderer, you know?
right, exactly. But this John, I'm like, hey, like you said, Grace, he had it out. He could have easily
Yeah.
been like, look, and
Yeah.
like, hey, they're about to start digging. Before they do, let me just tell you, I've been hiding this thing about Penny. Uh, so yeah, I thought that the ending it really didn't, it wasn't fitting to me because of course it's like it feels like justice is served in quotation marks because like they do die, but it's like they got to choose that they were gonna die. It's like
I
it's
think
not.
you just yeah, I mean, I think you're supposed I think that most people are probably like just turning it off being like, "Oh, he did it for her," more than they're being like, "Oh, no," cuz like Ian does suck.
Yeah.
But if there was maybe one more little reason why John has to kill Ian, like I think that is probably stronger. And then the other thing I forgot, I wanted to mention this earlier. One of the things about the Elizabeth running back to Bogdan scene, the different, and apologies to everybody who's like so annoyed that I'm just being like the person who I normally hate, who's like the book was actually better. But in the book, Bogdan is more implicated in crime, and like the passport thing is not a plot point, and so it's more that he's here and he's doing crime, and so he's more implicated, I think, in terms of, and there's a slightly like I think that like Tony killed Bogdan's friend, and Bogdan had found out that he killed his friend, and so like there's a whole mess of things, and so Bogdan seems a little bit more dangerous rather than like a guy who's kind of like stuck,
Mhm.
like I do think like it doesn't make a ton of sense that when Elizabeth's like rushing back and Steven's in danger, because like why would Bogdan kill Steven? But in the version where like Bogdan is much more of a criminal and that gets
Mhm.
uncovered, like, and has killed other people, like has done hitman, like it feels a little bit more like, oh, maybe he would kill Steven to like threaten me or whatever. And so that's a little piece I think that's like they condense everything to make it a little bit cleaner. And Bogdan, I guess a little bit of a spoiler, he is in future books. And
Oh.
so like every book, I think he's in every book moving forward. And so he's more of like, he's kind of a big part of Thursday Murder Club. And so I think they wanted to like have him be more sympathetic for when he returns, but in a way that I don't think the like climactic, like Elizabeth rushing back to save Steven works. But
Yeah, it was
you know,
definitely the like Steven was my friend, like that's where I'm like, oh, Bogdan, he's fine. Like, okay.
but
So
wouldn't that work better if you didn't like? I feel like the whole time I'm like, he's never gonna kill. Like
yeah, he's never gonna.
he only did the murder because they're like with that. What an evil thing to do to withhold someone's passport, as opposed
Right.
to if he was like had killed other people for like drug money. I'm a
Mhm.
little like maybe he would kill Steven. I don't know this
Maybe.
guy.
Yeah. Something
Yeah.
else that just jumped out to me a second ago was like, I think at the beginning of this, we kind of touch on Ian and how he is an awful person. Ian was getting a divorce,
Yes.
right, from
Yes.
his wife
Yes.
because
His wife
of
is divorcing
infidelity.
him. Yes.
Yeah, and he had been
Yeah.
cheating. But this
Yeah.
is the same wife that's having an affair with Jason, right? Like this is the same person?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I was
So
like,
Ian.
damn,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's tough.
Ian's not well, he's supposed to be showed as like the first guy you're like, oh, this guy sucks, and he's the most like, you're like, oh, this, like, in a world where this is just like straightforward, like this is the guy who did it, but like
Yeah.
he's not, because it's a murder mystery, and so it's never going to be the first person you suspect, and so they
Mhm.
they paint him to be in a worse light, I think, than like even his combo with Bogdan in the bar, like he's such a dick. Is he mean to the waitress too? I
I
feel
think
like
so.
maybe, yeah, so he
Yeah,
sucks, but
I
then he
think
doesn't
that's
suck quite
honest.
as much, which
Mhm.
also makes the John murder much worse.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I did appreciate that they kind of kick Penny out of the murder club. I mean, she does die, but they take her pendant and they give it to Joyce. They're like, "Oh, you haven't killed anybody, so you can
Yeah,
stay."
yeah, I would have maybe. I don't think they should have kicked her out. I feel like they should have like just given Elizabeth a new pendant.
A new pendant. I don't want the pendant
Yeah,
from, like,
yeah. I
did
don't
you
know.
take it from her before she died?
Yeah, it's kind of symbolically, I guess I get it, but I don't. I think just let Penny die with the Thursday Murder Club pen. I don't think she needs to be kicked out. Again, I'm pro what Penny did. I actually don't have a problem with what Penny did. She killed a cop who murdered his girlfriend, and the whole police force covered it up. Like,
Right. So like
it,
she.
No
didn't need to
problem.
be done. Right. We could take a blind eye to that, but they
Yeah.
did give her that pendant off that dead woman. I was like, what the. Um,
Yeah.
but
That
yeah,
was good.
we get Joyce kind of indoctrinated into the group now. She's a official member of the team because they did give her like probationary status at first. They're like, oh, you're temporary, which
Yeah.
I thought was hilarious because why are y'all gatekeeping this murder club? Like, what? Okay.
Well, it's one of my favorite things is how serious and like there's a bit of like I don't know whether it's like a joke or not, but there's a bit of a thing with the Thursday Murder Club where like nobody else takes it seriously. They take themselves very seriously, but then they always get wrapped up in like real crime, and they do
Mhm.
the spoiler. They often help figure it out. So like as annoying as they are, and like they're just that's part of I think like what is a little bit of like I really like the books in the sense that like they and the show and the movie that like we do sometimes like put old people in seniors home and they're like, okay, you go there and like I don't know if you watched Man on the Inside. Did you watch that? Was a Netflix
Mhm.
show, right? That's Netflix.
Yeah, for sure.
Where Ted Danson goes undercover to be in a seniors home. And I think
Mhm.
that show has a very sweet thing too, where it's like sometimes we forget about these people that we like put in these homes, or maybe they don't have family who come and and so this idea that these are actually like capable, real, well-rounded people, I think is a very sweet like theme and idea. So I like that they take themselves as the Thursday Murder Club very seriously.
Yeah, me too. Grace,
Yeah.
I'm happy I have you here because
Oh,
although we
great.
talked through the Thursday Murder Club,
Mm-hmm.
you as a tastemaker, you should
Yes.
be able to let us know what we should be looking out for on Netflix, maybe what we should be watching, or you could just tell people what you have been talking about over on the Tastemakers and kind of give our Nothing But Netflix listeners some recommendations so that we know what to watch and so that I know what to talk about moving forward.
Interesting. I mean, it has been a bit of like the dredges of summer, I think, between
Mhm.
movies and television. It's been there are some things I'm liking. Alien Earth, Dexter Resurrection is kind of fun.
Did they
There
cancel
is
Dexter?
okay, so very confusingly,
Because I saw
Chappelle.
you. Look, I saw the headline on Tastemakers. I was
Yeah,
like, is
so
this clickbait?
that was a little bit of clickbait, but not full clickbait. So
Wow.
hold on. Let me explain. Because the Dexter thing, explaining it to anybody who hasn't watched Dexter is very confusing. Because the Dexter original show like had its run and people hated the ending, and then they came back
Hate.
for Dexter New Blood, and people were like, I thought it was actually fine. Most people were like, oh no, we didn't like it. So
But
then
this new
they were like,
Dexter.
I don't know. Then they did Dexter Original Sin, which is the prequel series, and then once that was happening, they said, "Oh, we're actually going to continue doing Dexter." So Dexter Resurrection is happening because spoiler: Dexter, at the end of Dexter New Blood, Dexter dies, so he had to be resurrected for this new show. So this is the third Dexter show that's just sequels of Dexter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Plus the prequel. So they did cancel the prequel series. So
Okay.
Dexter Resurrection, I don't think there's an announcement whether it's coming back or not, but I presume it is because it's doing really well critically and audience wise. But they canceled Dexter Original Sin, the prequel series, which people also really like. So I don't know why Paramount has new ownership or whatever, Chappelle. So they're like coming in and canceling everything, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. Well, I hate to see a show get canceled, but I'm okay with
I
Dexter
know.
getting canceled. It's never been like I'm still mad about that first run. I am so mad about the ending of Dexter. But I did see that people were really enjoying the newest iteration of Dexter. People were talking about it, speaking about it very highly. But it does sound to me kind of like in that Walking Dead territory, right? Where you have the Walking Dead proper, you have Fear the Walking Dead, you have the Walking Dead World Beyond. It's like, well, we canceled the Walking Dead. But we still got Fear the Walking Dead World Beyond, the Daryl and the Carol show, and also you got Rick and Michonne's series. And so it's like, although it got canceled, you got more Dexter, coming your way, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, the more campy Dexter is, the better. Like, I think there was a time where it was like a super serious show, and you had like the Trinity Killer, and like it was really good, and then it got like really bad, but it was trying to be really good. And I feel like what it's doing now, like, so they casted a bunch of people in the new season of the show, Chappelle. So they cast
Mhm.
Peter Dinklage, Neil Patrick Harris, Uma Thurman, Eric Stonestreet from Modern Family, David Desmalchian, who's in some horror movies, and then Kristen Ritter from Jessica Jones. So they cast
Yeah.
all those people in the new season, and you're like, oh, this is probably to like obfuscate which one is the serial killer, right? Like we won't
Mhm.
know. And then they were like, just kidding, they're all serial killers. And
Oh,
that is they have a serial killer dinner party, Chappelle.
who saw serial killers?
And so when Dexter is like kind of campy and fun like that, I think that the place it should live in moving forward, and it's good. Netflix things that are coming. There is a show coming out called Black Rabbit that has Jude Law and Jason Bateman coming. I think it's like mid-September. And it's got some good reviews out so far. And it's also playing at TIFF. I might try to check out at least an episode, but that looks really fun. When the owner of a New York City hotspot allows his chaotic brother back into his life, he opens the door to escalating dangers that threaten to bring down everything he's built. That's the tagline for Black Rabbit.
Ooh.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we can check that out.
Wayward, I think, is coming out. That's Toni Collette, I think, in a miniseries as well. That looks to be horror adjacent. I'm a big fan of Toni Collette. There's some fun stuff that looks like it's coming in September to Netflix. So,
okay. Well, look, maybe we shall check that out and keep everybody abreast of what's going on here on the Nothing But Netflix podcast. But of course, Grace, you do have the Tastemakers with you and Taryn. And anything on y'all's radar coming up for the next couple weeks?
There's some movies coming out. Let me see. I think Stephen Fishback might come on to talk about Resident Alien, not that show. That Alien Earth is the show I'm talking about.
Yes.
So he'll probably come on when that wraps up its run. I'm gonna be full festival season. Hamilton's being re-released in theaters. Are you gonna check out Hamilton in theaters?
No,
you don't have to. Are you a Hamilton person? Are you not a Hamilton person?
I'm not really a musical guy.
Have you seen Hamilton?
I've seen it.
Okay. Downton Abbey, the new Downton Abbey movie is coming.
I like Downton Abbey. I don't want to spoil Downton Abbey, but I got through the big tragedy, and then I was like, all right, I'm good. So I never actually finished it, and I didn't see the last movie.
There's a new Stephen King movie coming out, The Long Walk. It looks pretty. These children have to basically they have to walk, and if they stop walking,
I've heard about that. You and Taryn talked about that, right?
Yeah.
So okay, yeah.
There's stuff. Okay. There's stuff. Horror season is very fun. Like we're creeping up on there's gonna be a lot of horror movies out, which are. Have you weaponsed, Chappell?
I have not weaponed.
You got a weapon.
I heard it's required reading. I heard you gotta go weapon.
You gotta go watch Weapons.
It sounds so good that I gotta go. And I'm not a horror guy. We know this. But
Taylor Hale said she doesn't watch horror movies, and she loved it. She came on to chat with us about it. So
yeah.
You got a Weapons. That's my big recommendation right now is Weapons. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll check it out.
And then This Century in Cinema, I'm counting down the top 100 movies of the 21st century. Jason Reed joined me this week to talk Black Panther. I know that was a movie that was on your list, but you and I couldn't make the timing work. But you will be coming on This Century in Cinema to chat about some of the movies.
Whiplash.
Yeah, Whiplash.
When I tell you that is my favorite movie of all time, I am not joking. And so I cannot wait to talk about it. But yes, Grace, thank you so much for joining me and the Nothing But Netflix audience. Tell everybody if there's anything else you're working on or where they can find you.
I have a Substack, but follow me on social media. I'm at Hi from Grace or at Go for Grace. I should really clean up my branding, but I haven't. But I appreciate. I know I gotta pick one, but I appreciate the follows and checking out. Writing for Parade over with Mike Bloom, very very fun interview. I interviewed Jennifer Holland from Peacemaker recently. I interviewed Noah Hawley, the creator of Alien Earth, and I'm interviewing another person from Alien Earth in the next couple weeks. So I got lots happening over there, so appreciate people checking it out.
All right, Grace, thank you so much. And then make sure that you have subscribed to this podcast. Go to nothingbutpod.com in order to do that. Make sure you check us out on our YouTube page and check out some of our other content. I had Elisa on to talk about K-pop Demon Hunters, and we should be having some bonus reality TV coverage on here as I'm if it hasn't already dropped, it should. But I've interviewed the contestants from the Biggest Loser documentary Fit for TV, and they have some things to say, and so
I love that.
Yeah, and so make sure you go check that out as well here on Nothing But Netflix and subscribe to WeKnowRealityTV.com and go to GetRHAP.com to subscribe to the podcast. And then you can check me out on my podcast, Recap Kickback, where I'm talking about whatever I want to talk about, including The Flavor of Love. We have now wrapped up season 1, and we'll be talking about season 2 very shortly. Well, I think we have the reunion. We're gonna have Matt Scott on to talk about The Flavor of Love reunion. Then we're gonna come back and talk about season 2 with me and Chantel, me and Mari talking about various other topics on there. So tune in, subscribe to Recap Kickback on all social media platforms, and then of course follow at Nothing But RHAP on Twitter to keep up what we have going on. Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm sorry, to keep up what we have going on. But that's it. Thank you so much, Grace. We'll talk to y'all next time. Peace.